Hi guys, did you know that most of the problems regarding trade between the UK and the EU is not down to Brexit? No, it's the European Union's fault. Yeah, that was the position of Kemi Badenoch's shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith when he appeared on the Trevor Philips show. The Tory attacked Labour for not pandering to Donald Trump, saying that the government had engaged in student politics, and he laid out his party's demands when it came to improving relations with the European Union. So he talked a lot of tripe here.
Andrew Griffith, President Trump has imposed tariffs on Canada, Mexico and China, and we could be next. Prime Minister's in Brussels tomorrow. Now, what have you thought about Brexit? Is this a moment that we should be drawing closer to the EU?
Not especially. I mean, there's a lot of jeopardy for the United Kingdom from what we saw overnight. You know, if the world goes into this era of increasing tariffs, the United Kingdom depends upon free trade. We don't run particular trade deficits with the United States. But clearly, our economy needs all the help it can get at the moment. After this government has come in, they've destroyed confidence, put up taxes. They're proposing lots of extra red tape. So the economy needs help. And one of the big opportunities for the UK right now would be to get much closer to the US, our biggest trading partner. We have a trade deal with the European Union already. So alongside that, a trade deal with the US would be a big win. So
No, it would not. And I've mentioned this before. A trade deal with the United States will be an absolute disaster, because the NHS will be on the table. And of course, Trump will be in a position where he would pressure the UK to import stuff like hormone-treated beef and chlorinated chicken. Wouldn't that be wonderful for British farming, which is struggling at the moment, after this guy's party signed trade deals which were extremely damaging to UK farming with Australia and New Zealand?
It's always good to talk, Trevor, but I'm not sure it now is the best time for the UK to be putting all of its efforts into talking to the EU rather than with the US.
Yeah, but if
The US is not interested, it seems, at this moment, with having good relations with its neighbours. Like, it's engaging in a trade war with Canada, it's engaging in a trade war with Mexico. And does Andrew Griffith honestly believe that Donald Trump wants to have a good relationship with the United Kingdom? Is he on the UK's side here? No. Look, I'm not saying that you should ignore Donald Trump. You have to deal with Donald Trump. But most of the UK's trade is with the European Union, not the United States. The US is the single biggest trading partner, but the biggest trading bloc is the EU, and it remains so.
If Mr. Trump is ready to impose tariffs on his closest neighbour, I mean, literally couldn't be closer to Canada, we must be vulnerable. And surely there is a case for reducing the frictions of trade with the EU.
Well, there's always a case for reducing trade frictions, but the biggest single trading partner that we don't have a trade deal with at the moment is the US. It's not the EU. We have a trade deal there. So as I say, it's not that it's bad to talk to anybody, but it feels like there's an awful lot of talk going.
But there are non-tariff trade barriers with the EU. Like, if Andrew doesn't believe me, ask any small business that's trying to export into the European Union, into the single market. So, of course, there's a chance of removing some of those barriers, not something that the Tories would agree with, it seems, and they'll pay lip service to the idea. But you want to have a better relationship with the European Union, because the European Union isn't planning a trade war with you.
On to the EU, and all we've got with the US is trying to offend them over the decision to give away the Chagos Islands. Lots of student politician comments in the past, sending a very political ambassador instead of a Foreign Office professional, and actually very little FaceTime as far as one can see so far going on.
Let's just stick to
This is the question I have for the Tories. Do they want the UK government to pander to Donald Trump, or do they want the UK government, like they used to ask in the past, to stand up to Donald Trump, the way they used to ask for the UK government to stand up to the EU? So when it comes to the EU, you have to stand up to them, you have to appear tough. But when it comes to Donald Trump, you have to grovel.
the trade and not the politics at the moment. The point is that Mr. Starmer is going to talk to the EU, and there must be a case for saying, let's at least try to make it smoother, because it's a big market, it's close to us. We know that since Brexit, trade with the EU's fallen. That's helped our economy to stutter. Surely there must be some advantages to having this better relationship. And you seem to be suggesting that yourself.
Yeah, as I said, it's always good to remove friction. Some of those frictions were imposed not as a consequence of Brexit, but, by individual countries within the EU pursuing...
So the consequences of Brexit are not down to Brexit. The fact that we left the EU has nothing to do with leaving the EU. The fact that we've imposed sanctions upon ourselves is nothing to do with Brexit. This is complete and utter delusion.
Particular agendas.
Okay, so
we've laid down...
And he said here as well, there are countries around Europe that have particular agendas. What agendas? Point out these agendas. I'd love to hear these agendas. I'd love to know what agenda the French government has when it comes to the UK. What agenda the Italian government has when it comes to the UK. What agenda Germany has when it comes to the UK. If you're making claims, you need to back them up with some evidence.
Some very clear lines as to what we think, if you're going to have those conversations, the government should focus on.
I want to come to that, but I just want to be clear that if the opportunity arose, you would support a close trading relationship with the EU?
Subject to our clear red lines, and it's important to know what they are. So no return to freedom of movement, no additional finances leaving this country, no rule taking again from European courts. There's always been conversations. There's been conversations under...
So we want our cake and we want to eat it as well. This is the Brexiteer mentality. This is the Tory Brexit mentality. We want to have all the benefits, but we don't want to pay any of the costs. Now, if this is going to be the narrative going forward, I think the EU is going to say, get lost. I hope that the Labour government are not listening to the Tories, because if the Tories were in charge, it seems, we want to have a better relationship with the European Union, but we will stand up to them at the same time as we don't want to stand up to Donald Trump, but we will stand up to them and we will demand things that are nonsensical. Like when he talks about freedom of movement, the Tories were against the idea of a mobility scheme, which isn't even anywhere near freedom of movement. Freedom of movement would help British people as well. This is something that we never hear in the media, unfortunately. No argument made for freedom of movement for British people, because they would benefit as well. Of course, it's limited. It's for young people between the age of 18 and 30. But this is not immigration. It's not freedom of movement. And no one seems to be entertaining the idea, especially not the Tories.
Each Conservative previous administration to try and remove some of those frictions. They were not necessarily consequences of Brexit.
No, I have to stop here because this just is nonsensical. So we voted to leave the European Union. We voted to impose economic sanctions upon ourselves, but those sanctions have nothing to do with Brexit. So I would love for this guy to go to a small business that's trying to export at the moment and explain to them, go into their office and explain to their export manager or their CEO or whoever, and explain to them, no, the reason why you're trying to export and you have all this paperwork has nothing to do with Brexit. I think he would probably be ran out of that business, and rightly so. These people are charlatans. They're still clinging on to this idea that Brexit was a good idea because they built their entire party on it and they won a majority based on it, and they can't let it go. They have to defend it, even though they probably deep down understand that it's undefensible. It's ridiculous. It's a joke. And the more the Conservatives try to defend it, the more they appear a joke. The UK needs to have a better relationship with the European Union. Is what Storm are doing at the moment going to eliminate these restrictions? Of course not. I've said Brexit will be done when the UK rejoins the European Union. There are some steps along the way, like a customs union perhaps, but that would take time and it would require effort, political effort. And you're certainly not going to see that from the Conservatives. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.